First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Keith Chambers, for being here and making your time for an interview. Our first question is, you are renowned for the slogan, every problem has a solution, especially in marketing. How do you justify this?
Well, I justify it by virtue of the fact that we have taken the selling proposition, okay, which essentially is the heart of marketing. It's your pitch, so to speak, okay? And we've taken and we've broken it down into 16 different pieces, so to speak. And our doing that, what we've done is that we have developed the opportunity to kind of on a macro level find out specifically, more specifically, what it is that's occurring. And when we're able to do that, almost any kind of circumstance that comes up, whatever comes at us, we're able to find within those 16, you know, what the answer is. It's very powerful, actually. It's 16 times more powerful than dealing with a selling proposition after it's all pulled back together. You have these different opportunities to identify an advantage over your competition. It's also a great way to analyze your competition and to identify a disadvantage on their part.
What exactly do you envisage through your big business marketing methodology for small and medium-sized businesses?
Well, another thing I discovered was that when we started working, I've worked all my life with large businesses, you know, the large brands, and I've learned to gear myself toward that and toward the mentality of working with pretty much hardcore, sophisticated, well-educated marketing people. And when I started working with more medium-sized companies, I discovered first of all that all the principles are exactly the same. The marketing principles and the philosophies that apply to a large business also apply to a small business. In fact, they apply not only to large and small businesses, but they apply also to different geographic regions, you know, different ethnicities and so forth. A fundamental marketing principle, as long as it's working in that moment until it changes and doesn't work, is pretty much applicable, you know, small, medium, or large.
Do you feel that the pull theory and the big business marketing methodology would work well for emerging businesses in Asian countries such as Sri Lanka as they are, or do they have to be adopted in a different manner?
No, they're exactly the same. The pull theory basically says that you should stay in action, you know, all the time. Pull basically refers to the fact that if you find yourself successful, okay, so let's say you launch a new product and it's successful. So what do? Well, you light up a cigar, you put your feet up on the desk. By the time the cigar goes out, you better be in action and creating what's next, and what's next after that, and what's next after that. Because target consumers will take the excitement that you've generated around a new product launch of some kind, and they'll kind of pull it back into the ordinary realm so that they feel comfortable with it. And as soon as they do that, you're vulnerable to your competition. So it's that constant movement, forward that really is very important.
You say free enterprise is basically war. Is marketing the sole vital weapon in this warfare, or do you need other weapons?
You need a lot of weapons. You need a lot of weapons, and that's one of the reasons that we took the selling proposition and pulled it apart and analyzed the bits and pieces. And what weapon works under one set of circumstances will not necessarily work under another. But that's the beauty of pulling it apart, is the analysis, and then you can become very aggressive at that point. The whole analogy to war, which is really quite true, is really based on the idea that everybody else is trying to do the same thing you're doing. You're in a category. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, you could be selling toasters, it could be anything. And you're in that category. And you're being watched by the competition, and you're looking at the competition, you're evaluating. So from that standpoint, it really is a war. And you're taking a step, and they're going to take a counter step. So you stay active, you know, and you keep moving forward. And then again, the fact that we've deconstructed this whole selling proposition, we're able to identify, if you will, different weapons that we can use. And that's a big advantage to us.
It is said that everything is fair in love and war. So in such a context, do corporates need to be ethical? Good governance, corporate social responsibility are just there to create that feel-good factor in the minds of the customers.
Well, do they need to be ethical? In my mind, yes, you do need to be ethical. Actually, the reverse side of it is there's no real reason to be unethical, as near as I can tell. If you have the tools, you have the weapons, so to speak, and you know how to use them, then you can play by the rules. You know what rules there are. You can play by the rules, and you can be very effective. So there's no real reason to be unethical.
Why do you say that your best inspiration originates from the fear of failure?
Oh wow, I've had a fear of failure all my life, and I honestly don't know exactly where it came from, but my fear of failure actually caused me to develop a technology, and what that technology, we refer to this technology as kinetics. Now, big corporations have bigger budgets and they're able to, finance, more aggressive campaigns, so to speak. And we developed a process that we call kinetics. Kinetics essentially was developed out of that fear of failure. Kinetics is a process where we grab 24 target consumers and we deconstruct that sales message, like I talked about, into all of those bits and pieces. Then we have a very special way of exposing those pieces to the target consumer and having them reassemble them. Now, we invented it again because of my fear of failure. And what it really means is that we research very well. So everything that I do in the corporate world is always, first thing that happens is it goes out for a piece of research. So I now can sleep at night when I know the research is coming in the next day and I don't have that fear of failure, and it's because for the most part this kinetics process, bit by bit and piece by piece, has exposed the entire concept to the target. So when we reassemble it, pull it all back together in a really powerful message, and we subject it to volumetric research, we know we're going to get a good score. And we do every time.
How do you weigh marketing trends like digital and social media within the South Asian context?
Okay, well, here's what I'll say about digital marketing in general, which I think is important. And that is that, if you went back in my career 25 years, marketing channels, channels of distribution, you could say, or channels of communication, have always been evolving, has always changed. The most significant change, of course, is moving into digital. And there's this big question about what do you do, or how do you handle this, or how do you react, how do you take advantage of digital communication? And we're certainly in that inquiry ourselves. But what's really important about all of that is that the message remains the same. You have a human on each end of the message. I'm on one end of the message, you're on the other end of the message. The digital media is just getting it to you. So it's almost like a separate subject. It doesn't really affect the message itself. The message itself, for the most part, as far as major marketers are concerned, is everything. It's everything, and they spend millions and millions of dollars. Now they have an additional issue, and that is relative to how they get the message out there. They have these all new channels of distribution to get the message out there, and that's kind of what digital marketing is about. I don't think anybody's really cracked the code on digital marketing up to this point in time, and I think ultimately there'll be different ways of doing it. We've created a few of our own, as yet pretty much untested, so we're kind of in the fray as well.
Why is it necessary to create the what's next for all products and services?
Well, if you don't create what's next, if you're not constantly in an inquiry to it, you will become what I refer to as irrelevant. Irrelevant is something you don't want to have happen to you. That's in a personal life or in a business life. So you stay in action, you keep reinventing yourself. People talk about reinventing themselves. You reinvent your brands, you reinvent your products, and you're constantly doing that. The truth of the matter is consumers become bored. And we say that they become familiar and comfortable with your brand. And you would think that you want people to be familiar and comfortable with your brand. You don't. You absolutely don't. Because as soon as that happens, you become vulnerable. You become irrelevant, and they'll move on. You become susceptible, and they'll move on.
Do you feel that Sri Lanka as a country needs to reinvent its selling proposition as a brand?
Oh, okay. So Sri Lanka itself is a brand. Very good question. I wish I were more familiar with, I have actually studied Sri Lanka, the heritage and so forth, the extraordinary heritage. I love the background, the heritage and so forth. A lot of assets, a lot of resources here. At this point in time, I don't really consider myself qualified to answer the question, though.